The phone rang, abruptly interrupting my sleep. Disoriented, I reached out and grabbed the device, not bothering to look at the clock. The voice on the other end of the line was grave and solemn, laden with an urgency that made me sit up in bed, fully awake.
Mrs. Caroline Martin?
Yes, that's me, I replied, my own voice sounding strange to my ears.
This is Central Hospital. I regret to inform you that your husband, Arthur Martin, has been in a serious car accident on the highway. He is in critical condition and needs immediate surgery.
My heart seemed to stop for a moment, and then it raced in a frantic rhythm. Arthur? Accident? The words didn't make sense. He was supposed to be on a business trip, not on a highway in the middle of the night. I'm coming right now, I managed to say, already getting out of bed and looking for my clothes.
Please drive safely,
the voice said, and then the call ended. I dressed in a hurry, my racing mind trying to process the situation. Arthur was hurt, maybe mortally. He needed me. I grabbed my purse and car keys and walked out the door, not caring to lock the house. The drive to the hospital was a blur of city lights and dark thoughts. I silently prayed, begging any higher power that would listen for Arthur to be okay. He had to be okay. Our life together was just beginning. We had so many plans, so many dreams. When I arrived at the hospital, I ran to the reception, my heart pounding painfully against my ribs. The receptionist directed me to the surgery waiting room, where I was told a doctor would come to talk to me soon. I sat in one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs, my knees weak with fear. The air smelled of disinfectant and sadness, and the white walls seemed to close in around me. I looked at the clock on the wall, mercilessly marking the passage of time. And then, I waited, each minute dragging like an eternity, until the doctor finally appeared, his somber face telling me everything I needed to know before he even spoke. My world was about to crumble, and I had no idea how deeply my life would be shaken in the next few hours. The doctor led me to a small private room, his face a mask of professional compassion. My heart was beating so loudly that I could feel it in my ears, drowning out all other sounds. I sat down, my trembling hands clutching each other in my lap. The doctor began, his voice soft but firm.
Mrs. Martin, I am sorry to inform you, but your husband did not survive his injuries. We did everything we could, but the damage was too extensive. He passed away during surgery.
His words hit me like a punch to the stomach, stealing my breath. This couldn't be happening. Arthur couldn't be dead. He was young, healthy, full of life. We had a lifetime ahead of us. No, I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. No, this can't be true. The doctor continued, his tone gentle but relentless.
There's one more thing, Mrs. Martin. Your husband was not alone in the car. There was a woman with him, an Amanda Santos. She also did not survive the accident.
Amanda Santos. The name meant nothing to me. Who was she? Why was she with Arthur? My mind was spinning, trying to understand, trying to make sense of this madness. I don't understand, I managed to say, my voice breaking. Who is Amanda Santos? Why was she with my husband? The doctor hesitated, clearly uncomfortable.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Martin, but it appears that Ms. Santos was, well, it seems that she and your husband were having an affair.
An affair. The words echoed in my head, ricocheting off the walls of my skull. Arthur. My Arthur was cheating on me. He was with another woman when he died. Our entire life together, Our love, our vows, it had all been a lie. I felt like the ground had opened up beneath me, swallowing me whole. My stomach churned, and for a moment I thought I might vomit right there, in front of the doctor. I wanted to scream, to break something, to shake Arthur and demand answers that he could never give me. But I did none of that. I just sat there, numb and stunned. As the doctor continued to talk, his words fading into the maelstrom of emotions that consumed me. My husband was dead. He had been cheating on me. And now I was alone, facing a life I no longer recognized, a life built on lies and deceit. I didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go. All I knew was that, in an instant, my entire world had shattered. I barely remember how I got home. The drive from the hospital to my house, once so familiar, felt strange and foreign, as if I were navigating a different world. The rising sun painted the sky in soft hues of pink and orange, but the beauty of the dawn was lost on me. All I could feel was an overwhelming emptiness, a sense of unreality that left me numb. I walked into the house, the silence enveloping me like a heavy blanket. Every room, every object seemed to be imbued with Arthur's presence, with memories of our life together. Memories that were now tainted by betrayal, by lies. I went to the kitchen, my movements automatic, guided more by habit than by any conscious thought. I started making coffee, trembling hands measuring and pouring the grounds, filling the pot with water. The familiar aroma of fresh coffee usually comforted me, but now it only seemed to increase my nausea. I drank one cup, then another, and another. The coffee burned my tongue and my empty stomach, but I barely noticed. My mind was stuck in an endless loop, replaying the doctor's words, imagining Arthur with another woman, trying to understand how my life had crumbled so completely in such a short time. The phone rang, the shrill sound startling me. For a moment I considered ignoring it, fearing more terrible news. But something compelled me to answer. A desperate need for human connection, perhaps. Hello? My voice sounded weak and distant to my own ears. A female voice, professional and gentle, spoke from the other end of the line.
Mrs. Caroline Martin.
Yes, that's me.
This is the Child Protective Services. We are very sorry for your loss, Mrs. Martin. We are calling about Nicole Santos.
Nicole Santos. The name meant nothing to me. My mind was spinning. I'm sorry. I don't think I understand, I managed to say. Who is Nicole? The woman hesitated for a moment before answering.
Nicole is a 6-month-old baby who has just lost her parents, Mr. Arthur Martin and Ms. Amanda Santos. She was under the care of a neighbour when we learned of the accident. Unfortunately, Nicole's maternal grandparents cannot take custody due to complicated family circumstances, and she has no other relatives. As you are the closest person to Nicole's father, we would like to schedule a meeting with you this afternoon to discuss the next steps.
I could barely hear her words. My mind stuck on the name. Nicole. Nicole? Arthur's daughter? A child with his mistress. An innocent child, now orphaned, whose existence was unknown to me and whose future I must now help decide? Nicole. Nicole?
Mrs. Martin, are you still there?
Yes. I'm here, I replied automatically. I will be there for the meeting. I hung up the phone, feeling more lost than ever, and immediately regretted it. I had nothing to do with Nicole, I felt bad for her, poor creature, but she wasn't my responsibility. My husband had not only betrayed me, but had a completely separate life from ours. A life that included a daughter. And now, somehow, this child had become my responsibility? No. No way. To my sadness and disbelief, a nice layer of hatred was added in the face of the cruel irony of fate. In one day, I went from a happy and carefree wife to a betrayed widow facing the news that my husband had a daughter with another woman. Whose story was this? Whose life? Certainly not mine. Be that as it may, I had already confirmed that I would go to the meeting, and I decided to keep my word, unlike Arthur. I would go there to make it very clear that I had nothing to do with that child. The meeting at the Child Protective Services was a blur. I sat in a small, poorly decorated room, listening without really absorbing as the counselor, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, explained Nicole's situation.
Unfortunately, if we can't find a suitable guardian for Nicole, she will have to enter the adoption system. I know it's a lot to ask, especially considering the circumstances, but would you consider taking Nicole, even if only for a few weeks, while we try to locate any relatives who might be willing to adopt her?
Her request caught me by surprise. Me taking care of my husband's child with another woman? The idea was absurd, repulsive even. But at the same time, a small part of me, the one that hadn't been completely consumed by pain and anger, felt sorry for the innocent child caught in the middle of this mess. I don't know, I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Could you give me a day to think about it? The counselor nodded, understanding.
Of course. I understand it's a huge decision. Please call me tomorrow and let me know what you decide.
I left the meeting feeling more overwhelmed than ever. I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with thoughts of Arthur, our marriage, and his betrayal. I remembered the day we met, 2 young students full of hope and dreams. I remembered our wedding, the promises we made to each other, promises that Arthur had broken so easily. And now, here I was, facing the prospect of raising his child with another woman. A child who was a living reminder of his infidelity, of his selfishness. But at the same time, I couldn't help but think of Nicole herself. She was not to blame for her parents' sins. She was as much a victim of circumstance as I was. Could I really turn my back on her? Let her enter the foster system when I had the power to offer her a home, even if only temporarily? Arthur and I had talked about having children, but we never came to a definitive decision. Now suddenly I was facing the possibility of motherhood in a way I never imagined. It would be a challenge, no doubt. Caring for a baby is hard work under normal circumstances, and these circumstances were far from normal. I would have to deal not only with the physical demands of caring for a child, but also with the emotional weight of knowing that she was the product of my husband's betrayal. I sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling in front of me, and pondered my options. It wouldn't be easy, but when was the last time anything in my life had been easy? I had faced challenges before and always found a way to overcome them. Maybe this was just another obstacle I needed to get through. After the meeting at the Child Protective Services, I found myself immersed in a mountain of bureaucratic paperwork related to Arthur's death. Contracts, certificates, forms. Each document was a painful reminder that my husband was gone forever, and in a way I could never have predicted. With trembling hands, I signed each paper, my signature becoming increasingly illegible as tears threatened to fall. When I finished, I headed to our bedroom, determined to remove any trace of Arthur's presence. I opened his closet and started taking out his clothes, one by one. Each piece evoked a memory. The shirt he wore on our first date, the tie I gave him on our last anniversary. I felt a pang of longing, but it was quickly replaced by a wave of anger. How could he do this to me? How could he throw away our love, our commitment, for a sordid affair? I took a few mementos, an expensive pen he always used, a pair of cufflinks he wore at our wedding, his favorite book. The rest I packed into boxes for donation. I didn't want anything in my house that reminded me of his betrayal. As I worked, my mind oscillated between memories of our marriage and images of him with Amanda, a face I didn't even know. And then there was Nicole, the innocent child in the middle of all this tragedy. What would become of her now? Hours passed, and when I finished, I realized I hadn't eaten in almost 48 hours. I ordered a pizza and forced myself to eat 2 slices, breaking the fast of grief and anger. Then, physically and emotionally exhausted, I dragged myself to bed and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, I woke up disoriented and was suddenly taken by the new reality. I was a widow, betrayed, and might have to take responsibility for a child that wasn't mine, all in a house that seemed strangely empty without Arthur's things. But I also felt a sense of purpose, of clarity. Without thinking, I picked up the phone and called the Child Protective Services. "I will take Nicole," I said to the counselor, my voice firm despite the slight tremor. "But only for 2 weeks. After that, you will have to find another solution." The first days with Nicole were a shock to me. Despite having agreed to take care of her for 2 weeks, I quickly realized that I had no idea what I was doing. Everything was new and scary. The diapers, the bottles, the endless crying at night. Desperate for help, I hired a nanny, Maria, to guide me through the basics. She showed me how to change Nicole's diapers, prepare her formula at the right temperature, and stimulate her development with tummy time. But even with Mariah's help, I felt overwhelmed and inadequate. The nights were the worst. Nicole would often wake up crying, and I would spend hours walking back and forth with her, trying to soothe her. The sleep deprivation took its toll, leaving me exhausted and emotionally drained. In a moment of desperation, I called the Child Protective Services, ready to give up. But the counselor reminded me of the document I had signed and encouraged me to persist. Her words gave me a little more confidence, but the doubt lingered. To make matters worse, I kept finding traces of Arthur around the house. An old t-shirt here, a forgotten photo there. Each item was a stab to the heart, a reminder of the love I had lost and the betrayal I had suffered. The days dragged on in an endless cycle of feeding, diaper changes, and sleepless nights. I longed for a moment of peace, a return to my old life. But then, Nicole would smile at me, or grab my finger with her tiny hand, and I would feel a spark of connection, but something very fleeting that would soon disappear under my dark circles. Slowly, with Mariah's constant help and the support of a kind neighbor, I began to find my rhythm. Around the 12th day, I felt like I was finally starting to understand Nicole's needs, to anticipate her cries, and soothe her more easily. But just as I thought I was finding my balance, I received a call from the Child Protective Services counselor. They still hadn't been able to locate any living and capable relatives of Amanda, and since Arthur's family lived abroad, the priority was to keep Nicole in her culture of origin. They asked me to keep her for another week. I hung up the phone, feeling a mix of emotions. Fear of the prolonged commitment, but also a discreet sense of responsibility for this child. I stood there for a while, looking at Nicole, who was sleeping peacefully in her crib, completely unaware of what was happening to her. I knew the road ahead would be difficult. There would be more sleepless nights, more moments of doubt and exhaustion. But there would also be laughter, hugs, and the chance to give this child a little bit of the stability she deserved, even if only for a short time. So, with a shaky sigh and a heart full of determination, I accepted the challenge. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. While Nicole slept peacefully in her crib, I decided to take advantage of the rare moment of tranquility to tidy up some things around the house. My steps led me to Arthur's office, a room I had avoided since his death. As I entered, my gaze was drawn to a locked drawer in the desk. Curiosity and apprehension battled within me. What could Arthur have hidden there? With trembling hands, I grabbed a paperclip and started fiddling with the lock until, with a soft click, the drawer opened. Inside, I found a collection of items that told a story I wasn't prepared to face. There were love letters exchanged between Arthur and Amanda, photos of them together at various stages of their relationship, and even an engagement ring. So, this was Amanda. A young woman, no more than 30, with long, curly blonde hair, undeniably beautiful. She seemed cheerful, good-humored, probably without my traces of cynicism and irony. In an enlarged photograph, she appeared wearing a flowing light green dress, leaning on the parapet of a bridge over the sea. She looked like a movie star. Each item was a stab to the heart, irrefutable proof of the depth of their love and commitment to each other. I had believed that our marriage was solid, that Arthur was mine forever. But now, facing the truth of his double life, I felt my world crumble around me. I spent 2 long hours in that office, reading every letter, examining every photo, trying to reconcile the man I thought I knew with the stranger emerging from these pages. How could he deceive me so completely? How could I have been so blind? Tears of anger and pain streamed down my face, but they were interrupted by the sound of Nicole's cry. Wiping my eyes, I went to her room, picking her up in my arms and rocking her gently. As I soothed her, Nicole did something unexpected. She nestled into me, laying her semi-bald little head in the crook of my neck. Despite the overwhelming pain in my heart and my tear-stained face, I found myself smiling. In the days that followed, Nicole sketched her first crawl, something close to a still very unsteady crawl. Also in those days, I noticed that she had started to snuggle into me when I held her, and even more shocking, that she refused to go into other people's arms when she was in mine. In the weeks following the discovery of Arthur's secrets, I found myself increasingly attached to Nicole. Despite the pain and betrayal I felt, her presence in my life became an unexpected source of joy. This new perspective was put to the test when, during an afternoon of play, Nicole swallowed a small piece of a toy. Panic gripped me as I rushed her to the hospital, my heart pounding with the fear of losing her. As I anxiously waited for news, I was forced to confront the depth of my feelings for this child. The thought of something happening to her was unbearable, and I realized that at some point along the way, I had begun to grow fond of her. Fortunately, Nicole was fine, but the incident served as a catalyst for an even greater change in our lives. A few days later, we received a visit from the Child Protective Services counselor, who informed us that, despite their best efforts, they had been unable to locate any suitable relatives to take custody of Nicole. The news left me devastated. The idea of Nicole being so alone in the world with only me as support was heartbreaking. Sitting with the counselor, I began to open up about our almost 4 weeks together. The challenges, the triumphs, the unexpected bonds we had formed. As I spoke, I saw an expression of understanding appear on the counselor's face. She listened attentively, asking gentle questions and offering words of encouragement. And then, almost hesitantly, she suggested a solution that I had not yet said out loud, that I seek permanent custody of Nicole. At first, the idea seemed frightening. Me, becoming legally responsible for this child? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was the right choice. Not because I wanted to replace Amanda or erase the past, but because Nicole had become an undeniable part of my present. Maybe my future. Tired, with my sleep in tatters and tears in my eyes, I agreed to start the custody process. I knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be obstacles to overcome, adjustments to be made, and undoubtedly moments of doubt and fear. But I also knew that it would not be of great value to me, and even less to her, if I remained in denial about what we had there. A bond forged in adversity and sealed by choice. The months following the start of the custody process were filled with anxiety and anticipation. Each day seemed to drag on as I waited for news from the judge, fearing that some unexpected obstacle might arise and change the course of our lives. But amidst all the uncertainty, Nicole continued to thrive. A few days before her first birthday, she took her first faltering steps, her eyes shining with joy and pride as she navigated the world with a new independence. And then, not long after, came her first word: water. I was filled with joy upon hearing that simple syllable, amazed at the speed with which she was growing and learning. To celebrate her birthday, I organized a small party, inviting Maria and a few other close friends. As I watched Nicole play and laugh, surrounded by love and support, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Despite all the difficulties we had faced, we were building a beautiful life together. But there was still a question weighing on my mind. What name would Nicole use for me? I didn't want to force the title of mom, knowing that she already had one, even if she was no longer with us. But I also longed for a term that reflected the depth of our bond. The answer came unexpectedly when Nicole started attending daycare. Hearing her little friends calling their mothers mommy, she naturally began using the same term for me. And although part of me hesitated, I couldn't help but be moved by the ease with which the word came out of her lips. Over time, I realized that I didn't need to correct Nicole or explain the complexity of our situation. To her, I was her mommy, the person who loved her, took care of her, and put her to bed every night. And that was enough. When Nicole was 1.5 years old, I decided to stop putting off the inevitable and take the next step in our journey: filing for adoption. I wanted there to be no doubt about my commitment to her, for the world to know that she was my daughter in every way that mattered. I wanted to ensure that she had all the rights of a daughter, that she would never live another day of helplessness in her life. To my surprise and relief, the process went smoothly without major obstacles. And then, on a day I will never forget, I received the news I had been waiting for. The judge had approved the adoption, officially recognizing me as Nicole's mother. That night, Maria, our neighbor, and I threw a huge party to celebrate. We laughed, cried, and toasted to the future, knowing that no matter what life had in store for us, we would face it together as a family. Looking at Nicole asleep in my arms at the end of the night, I felt a peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. In truth, maybe I had never experienced it before. Our path had not been easy, marked by unimaginable losses and challenges, but it had also been filled with love, healing, and growth. And now, with my name on Nicole's birth certificate and her love in my heart, I knew we were ready for anything. Because together we had found something that no tragedy could take away: a home, a family, and a love that would last forever. Today is a special day: Nicole's kindergarten graduation. As I watch her climb onto the stage, her little face radiant with joy and pride, I feel my heart overflow with love and gratitude. Over the past few years, I have had the privilege of watching Nicole grow and transform into an incredible girl. She is intelligent, kind, generous, and has an infectious sense of humor that brightens even the darkest days. Every drawing she brings home, every story she invents, every gesture of kindness she demonstrates, it all fills me with admiration and pride. I can't wait to see what the future holds for her, the wonders she will accomplish, and the mark she will leave on the world. But even in the midst of all this joy, I know there are still challenges ahead. Issues I will need to face, difficult conversations I will have to have. How will I tell Nicole about Amanda and Arthur when the time is right? How will I explain the complexity of her history, the tragedies and choices that shaped our lives before she was even born? These questions fill me with anxiety, and I often find myself avoiding thinking about them. But deep down, I know I can't run away forever. One day, Nicole will ask questions, and it will be my duty to answer with honesty, compassion, and love. I don't have all the answers yet, and I know I will probably make mistakes along the way. But I trust in the love we share, in the unbreakable bond we have built over these years. That love will be my guide, my compass, as I navigate the unknown and unpredictable waters of motherhood. And I have faith that when the time comes, I will know what to say and how to say it. Because in the end, what matters is not the circumstances that brought us together, but the choice we make every day to be a family, to support each other, heal each other, and grow together, no matter what life throws our way. So today, as I stand and applaud Nicole's achievement, I make a silent promise to her and to myself. A promise to always be honest, to face challenges head-on, and to love unconditionally, even in the most difficult moments.
Hey there, Unraveling Ties family. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. I hope it touched your heart, made you think, or even inspired you in some way. We would love to hear your thoughts and feelings about this story. Don't be shy. Leave a comment below and share your perspective with our community. Your voice matters to us. If you enjoyed today's story and want to be a part of our journey as we unravel the complexities of human relationships, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss a new story. We're always eager to explore new angles and dive into the themes that resonate with you the most. So tell us, what kind of stories would you like to see in upcoming episodes? Your input helps us create content that you'll love. And hey, if today's story reminded you of a personal experience or a tale you'd like to share, we're all ears. Feel free to share your own stories in the comments. Who knows, your story might even inspire a future Unraveling Ties episode. Once again, thank you for being a part of the Unraveling Ties family. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, keep embracing the ties that bind us and never stop exploring the depths of the human heart. See you in the next video.